Welcome to In the Loop Podcast, a podcast that is inspired by the breakaway roping lifestyle. I'm your host, Jordan Joe, professional rodeo athlete, NFR qualifier, and business owner. My goal is to promote the sport of breakaway roping, alongside with celebrating and highlighting elite competitors in and out of the arena. This podcast shares the raw and the real of breakaway roping, bringing you behind-the-scenes stories from competitors, producers, leaders, and the trailblazers, all sharing stories of the Western culture and the lifestyle that they live daily. Join me to talk about breakaway roping, the history, the present, and the future of our sport. If you want to be in the loop, you're in the right place. Thank you for joining us. Take a listen. Okay, guys, so today we are here with April Dirteater, who is the Dietitian dietitian. She is her own boss, entrepreneur, wife of Ryan Dirteater, bull rider. We were just kind of joking a little bit about how the last name Dirteater is a little bit particular. He's a bull rider, and then she's also a dietitian. So we were just kind of giggling about that a little bit. But April, thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be on.
So tell me a little bit about what it looks like in the day of April. You've got so many different things going on. You're a wife, you are a boss, you are very heavily involved in your fitness. So tell me about that and what it looks like.
Yeah, so right now I am running the company Nutrition, and so I get to make my own schedule. I think a lot of people think like when you make your own schedule and you work from home that it's all joy, but you still got to be super, super diligent. So the first thing I usually do when I start out, this is on a good day, you know, the influencers out there that make it seem all nice, you know, and I usually wake up anywhere. This is a broad range. This is also a struggle being an entrepreneur, anywhere from 5:30 to 7. And then I usually, what I try to do is I try to get my gym in at least, honestly, 3 to 5 days a week, just realistic for me. So 3 out of the 5 days, I'll wake up in the morning and just head to the gym. I'll have my banana, drink my water, go to the gym. I'll come back, get ready. And then I usually start my work day anywhere from 8 to 9 a.m. And that's usually when I first start answering emails. I plan out my day, and then my calls go from 9 to 4 p.m. typically. And I work with women primarily through the Nutrition, but I also work with athletes through Western Sports Foundation, which I love doing. My background, just a little bit about me too, is I'm a rescue dietitian and I'm also a professional bodybuilder. And so a little bit with that background, becoming a rescue dietitian, I did do sports rotation. I really thought I was going to be a sports dietitian. And so when I started my company, I was kind of sad because I was really preparing, you know, to work with the sports team. But then I'd started my own company and primarily started working with women. And now that I work with Western Sports Foundation, I get to use my sports skills for Western Sports Foundation. But with that being said, I do counseling, more of like consultation. I don't like write meal plans. So I spend a lot of time with my clients. We're on phone calls, reading follow-up calls. I'm reviewing journals and also, you know, helping my husband outside and then also doing the day-to-day chores. So it's a full 8-hour day typically, but it's packed full and I really, really love what I do. So I wake up excited, and also the other things, business like content creation and, you know, the business side of things. So when I'm not on a phone call, when I'm not reviewing journals, I'm doing the business side of things.
Well, and I love all of that. You know, I want to just touch on, like, we're talking the business side of things, because I too took the full journey, the full leap off the diving board as an entrepreneur in August of 2022. And honestly, it is a bigger challenge to be your own boss because you have to be so diligent in all the things you do because you have so much freedom. So it's like you can just take off and you think, oh, well, I'll do that tomorrow. Well, then pretty much tomorrow stacks up, and then all of a
It
sudden you have all
piles.
these things to do. And then you have to be so diligent with your time and your focus. And I mean, all these things, like I've just learned, it's like I went from doing, I'll do an hour-long call and consultation with my clients. And now I'm like, okay, if it's this, I'm doing 30 minutes. If it's this, I'm doing 45 minutes. If it's this, I'm going to do an hour. And it's just amazing just how learning to navigate your time and your priorities and all those things go into your business. And then on top of that, I think it's best that you have an office without a window, because for me, if I'm looking outside, I want to be outside. So, just like you said, going outside and helping your husband and doing all those things, like it just, there's so many moving parts and pieces to the puzzle that you've kind of got to find your groove and what works for you best as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So let's jump in a little bit. Western Sports Foundation, I am heavily involved with them too, and love everybody over there and everything that they do. Tell me a little bit about, you said you were a bodybuilder, and I've looked, if you guys are interested, go and check out April on all of her social media platforms. Like, she is one of the most fit women I've ever seen, but you are so real and realistic about what that looks like and the journey. I read one of your posts one time, and it was like, there are so many sacrifices that go into looking like this. It didn't feel good. There was a lot of sacrifices that came with it, but then you posted another picture and you're like, but to look like this, I feel great. I weigh more, I have more body fat. It was something along those lines, but it was like, I feel good this way, and it's not perfect. So talk to me a little bit about your bodybuilding experience and kind of how that brought you into the journey of the ad dietitian.
Yeah. So when I first started out, like my nutrition journey, it was, honestly, I can go back to my freshman year of college. I walked on a college track team, and that's where my first initial excitement about nutrition started. Because when your coach is sitting there talking about nutrition stuff, you automatically are like, well, why can't I drink the milkshake? Why do I need to eat the banana? And so I got super excited. I went to change my major my first semester to nutrition. The college I was at did not have nutrition. So I went ahead and did some research on some colleges, and honestly, I just found the cheapest nutrition program in the state and moved over there, and it was in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. I first dabbled in CrossFit, and immediately I'm in my nutrition major. Of course, you don't start classes till later on, but I do CrossFit probably 6 to 7 weeks. And then I'm on Instagram. I come along this picture of Miss Bikini Olympia, and I immediately was like, I want to do that. I don't know how, but I want to do that. And so I did a little bit of research and found my first coach, and I stepped on stage 8 weeks later. Would not recommend. You actually have to have muscle to step on a stage, even as a bikini competitor. I just got done running college track, so I built up some muscle, and then I did CrossFit, so I built up some. But when I dieted down, I didn't have much body fat to lose. I was just kind of like a string bean. But anyways, that was my first experience with competitions. I really got hooked on it. I'm super excited. It was another goal. I'm very goal-oriented person. I always have to have something. And so if it wasn't college track, I had CrossFit. If it wasn't CrossFit, I had bodybuilding. So I always was getting into something. And so I started that. And what that entails is, the first thing I did was a meal plan, which was really easy to follow. You followed it. Of course, you dealt with the hunger and the dieting side effects, but there's no thinking involved. I reached out to another coach. He did a meal plan with me as well. I did get nationally qualified at my first show, but also my second show. I just didn't go national. And with that, trying to compare it to rodeo terms. So, right, I guess I would just be my first show, I was just someone just get started out, amateur, just starting to go. And then finally I made it to, it's amateur. And then the goal is to win first in your class. And that's how you get your pro card. And so I was competing with honestly 4 to 5 girls, for my first show. The second show, I competed with 13 girls, and then you compete with 50, or 40 to 50. And so I got second in my class. So I went pro really, really fast. And I became the first pro bikini competitor in Oklahoma. And so I had very fast success with it. And so I think once I went pro, I was also in school. And so I was meal prepping. I was taking my classes. I also had job, I was working 20, 25 hours a week. So I was very busy lady, but
Yeah, you had lots of irons in the fire.
I did. And so I finally decided to take time off of competing and really focus on my becoming a dietitian. So my senior year, I took, really 2 years off competing, finished my dietetic internship, became a dietitian. And during that time, I really started enjoying not dieting and really focusing on how to be healthy around food, having, healthy thoughts. Because a lot of times you start tracking macros, and you kind of get addicted to being lean. You have like, you feel like you always want to be lean because it's super exciting. You have your abs, but I think what it taught me taking that time off was how I didn't see that I was kind of like in a diet cycle myself. Like I always my always end goal was to make sure I was lean and cut, but I often did not feel as good. So just to, be transparent, like I would get down to like 104, 105 pounds. And my usual weight is 20, 25 pounds above that. And when you get down that low, you have to be very meticulous. You have to eat all your meals, track all your meals, do all the things. And then there was a part of me that really switched because I was coaching my clients like they were bodybuilders, like normal everyday clients. And what would happen is I'd put them on macros, we'd lose the body fat, but then they would be kind of having like the same things that tracking does. They'd be kind of scared around food. They would overthink their food choices. They would also not maintain their fat loss because then they would kind of give up on it because willpower only lasts for so long. And so I've actually recently decided to stop competing because I wanted to be able to just really keep my healthy relationship with food. And also my clients that come in, I want to teach them a balanced way of doing things.
Yeah. Well, and as you're talking about like a healthy relationship with food, I had a friend in college that was a bodybuilder and did the competitions, did the bikini competitions. And so I got to watch her a little bit behind the scenes, like meal prep and all those things. But it was almost like a scarce mentality for her of like, I can only eat this, I have to weigh that. And it's like you have to. And then, like you said, after a while, it mentally is just so draining and so much. But I love how you said, creating that healthy relationship with food. And I think that that's even just something I've learned in the last few years working with Doug Champion and Natasha McCon. I call her McCon. Her last name's McCann, but I call her McCon, like pecan. She'll giggle. But anyway, they've helped me to create that realistic relationship with food and what do you want out of your body and all those things. Cause I never competed like you did, but I would be like, okay, I need to get lean, I need to get skinny. So I just starve myself, or then after the starve comes oh, did you say Wendy's large with the French fries? Yes, I'll have that. So, it was just such a mountain and a valley kind of thing and a battle, and learning to create that. It's like your brain doesn't want to create, or it maybe just because we've done so much of the like drastic change. Maybe, I don't know. You'll have to expand more on that. But like your brain's like you said, scared of you're either this way or this way. And diet is such a fearful word. So talk a little bit about how you overcame some of those things and started to create that healthy relationship with food and then with your body.
Yeah. So I'll just talk about the experience when I just did a show. I actually competed last year in April, and that's when I decided to be my last show. So every time I start to compete, it actually starts very balanced. A lot of people think you immediately jump to like extreme measures, but honestly, like my first deficit numbers are like 1,800 calories. And for those who like don't track calories and can't understand what that is, it really isn't very aggressive. My maintenance is probably like 2,300. So I started out 1,800 calories, barely doing any cardio. And so every time I go in it, I'm thinking this time it's going to be healthy for me, but your body has a self-defense mechanism there to keep you safe. And as soon as it feels like you're losing body fat, no matter how long you've stayed away from dieting, it's going to kick back in. And you're going to be really food focused. You can't have food. So your body's going to bring it to your mind. You're going to be hungry. You're going to feel fatigue. And so those things came back and I was like, man, I really thought I could do this again and it not have those things. But the reality is if you don't eat enough, your body is there to protect you. It's there to help you. if you're already lean, trying to get leaner, you're really going to kick that defense mechanism in, because your hunger and fullness hormones are controlled by your body fat. And if they drop low, it's going to tell you that you need more food, because think about what you're telling your body if you're not giving it nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
You're not eating, like, exactly, you're starving. And so what it's going to do, it's going to make you very efficient at gaining body fat, and it's going to make you it's really going to push you to find some food. So you're constantly thinking about your food. You're always thinking about your next meal and things like that. And so I went ahead and I really struggled with this prep. I would go through periods where I like just gave up and honestly just ate, whatever. And then you can't do that at the pro level. Like, you absolutely cannot do that. It's going to show that person that was 100% and the person who was not. And so I stepped on stage, and it was honestly, like, usually I feel so confident, like I did everything I could, but knowing I, didn't stick to it, I was honestly kind of embarrassed. Like, when other people see it, like, they're going to think you looked fantastic, but I'm like, for the pro stage, it wasn't okay. So I think after I got off that stage, I was like, not defeated, but I think it was like, I really got to my why, like why I wanted to compete. And I think my biggest why was because I felt like I needed to, like, I went pro, and now I felt like I had to keep competing to, make it to the Olympia. But in reality, I don't think I was doing it for myself anymore. I was doing it because that's kind of what was expected of me. And so
that's what I was just about to say. Like, I feel like it's easy as a competitor, and just in having that competitive mindset, no matter what you do, whether it's rodeo, roping, the fitness, bodybuilding, like having that fire inside of you, like, it's like once you hit that level, the expectations of yourself, they just go astronomically through the roof. And then all the pressure and everything that you get from, if you'll allow it, from other people and their expectations and all the things, it can be a lot.
Absolutely. And it's that pressure that kind of when we keep going, because I have so many friends in the bodybuilding space and things that it's not even true. It's like, man, they won't, want to hang out with me if I don't compete, like stupid stuff like that. It's not even true. Or they won't respect me. But honestly, like, that's not the truth at all. So I decided to just not compete, and really, I was like, it's not something I want to do. Like, if it's something I wanted to do, I wouldn't have so much resistance toward it. And so I kind of accepted that. And so that was a year ago. I was last on stage. And so the things that helped me kind of get out of it, honestly, the first thing I did was stop body checking. When you're bodybuilding in the morning, you're in the mirror, you're looking what's going on, you're weighing yourself. So I stopped weighing myself and I stopped body checking, because health and fat loss are totally two different things. Most of the time, the body fat that you're at, a healthy body fat for you is not going to be as lean as you want it to be. It's just not. And that's often because on social media, if you're following bodybuilders all the time, you really have a warped sense of what's normal and what's healthy. And so I unfollowed and muted a lot of bodybuilders.
That a girl. High five.
Yeah, it was hard, but I muted them because I didn't want to start comparing myself, stop body checking, stop weighing. And then I really just got down to the basics of nutrition. I was like, okay, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to track every morsel, but I also don't need to be, and this is from in the past what I did, get in the habit of skipping breakfast, eating Brahms daily, a burger and a milkshake, things like that. Like, and even as a dietitian, like, that dieting really makes you like go one way or the other. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I went to the grocery store. I said, I'm going to eat 3 meals a day. I'm still going to do the same thing. I'm not going to track, but I'm going to eat 3 meals a day. And if I'm hungry, I'm going to eat a snack. I did that. Of course, I gained body fat. That's what you want to happen. But then over time, I got to get to this really cool place to where I kind of settled in. Like, at first, like, it was a little uncomfortable how much I put on, but then it settled in. And then since I have normal fat, I'm able to actually feel full. The craziest thing when you're a bodybuilder, you think, like, how does this little person eat so much? I ate way more when I was leaner because I did not have fullness cues than what I did when I actually had body fat. I was able to like stop myself and feel full. So I got to get in tune with my hunger and fullness cues again. I eat a regular meal pattern. I don't weigh myself, and I still like take like mirror selfies and stuff, but it's not like every morning as a monitor tool. Like, I would take pictures. I would weigh to monitor myself. I don't monitor myself. I really just check in with my actual actions and making sure my actions are healthy. And if my actions are healthy, I'm happy.
After all of this, after all the the ups and downs, going pro, kicking butt, and then, like you said, you felt a little defeated, even though absolutely not defeated. What you said, you found your why. What was your why at the end of that?
My why after that is I changed my whole business model after that.
I love it.
And so I would just immediately put everyone on macros and just treat them like a bodybuilding client. I got into, I hired a mentor in mentorship. I learned how to help people with behavior change and habits and spent a lot of time doing that. And so I used to not get on phone calls with my clients. I used to just literally send them macros. I learned how to be more so of a counselor and working with my clients versus just telling them what to do. And so my why was just teaching people how to start them from where they are, help them build habits that make sense for them, and to get them like to a healthy body composition that they can actually maintain. I'm not against body composition goals. I'm against, throwing out your health for body composition goals. And so my why changed to treating each individual like the individual they are. Some people do track, some people don't track, some people we just do habits, but I treat everyone as an individual. And then why Add Nutrition, my business name, honestly, like I created Add Nutrition before I even really started thinking about my why with Add Nutrition. But it's really to focus on what to add to your diet. I think even as athletes, the biggest thing, like I've even noticed in rodeo athletes, they immediately want to say, should I not be eating this? Should I be cutting this out? And I'm like, well, what can you actually do? Like, what's something like realistic that you can do to get you where you need to be? So Add Nutrition is literally focusing on how you can balance out your diet versus always going a negative way about it. Like, I have to cut all this. I'm never going to eat any of this again, because that doesn't last. And honestly, anyone listening to this, think about a time you said that to yourself and how long that actually lasts. What I've noticed since I've changed my approach with the clients, they're actually sticking to habits. They're actually enjoying it. They're not food focused. They're able to have a positive way of thinking about it. They're incorporating more vegetables. They're adding more protein, finding ways they can add nutrients to their food. I think when people think healthy eating, they think chicken, broccoli, rice, and they're like dreading it. But like, for an example, like I have someone be like, I don't know what I want to eat this week. I don't want to eat chicken, broccoli, rice. I'm like, who said you had to eat that? And they're like, I don't know. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? I'm like, well, what foods do you like?
The news.
Burger, spaghetti. I'm like, well, how can you balance that out? Like, what can you add to it? Like, for example, spaghetti, could you make the meat leaner? Instead of doing 80% lean beef, can you do 93? For the noodles, can you do whole grain? Can you add a vegetable to the side? That's healthy eating. It doesn't have to be boring chicken, broccoli, rice.
Well, and I'm so glad that you talked about that, because I love that, just that completely changes your perspective on your why. Because I feel like for me, I would feel so guilty about eating the things that I liked, and it's just like you said,
I enjoy things.
What? This can taste good. Are you sure? And so it's like, first of all, like changing the behavior and the habits. I love that. And then just breaking it down, like, okay, I want to have spaghetti. Okay, let's jump into that. How can you make it healthy? Where is your meat coming from? Or like you said, what kind of noodles are you having? Are you having bread? Are you not having, like, how can you make this meal that you desire work? And so for me, instead of being like, oh my God, I want spaghetti, like, give me a salad, no dressing. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, okay, I'm going to have spaghetti and I'm going to add a salad with no dressing instead of bread, maybe, and have whole noodles or anything like that. That gives me a whole new perspective. And it's almost like a sigh of relief to like, oh my gosh, okay, I can eat what I want to eat. I can make that work. So it changes your perspective completely.
Huge. And my clients really struggle with it. They're like, are you really telling me to, like, I can have this? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, just really think about it. If you're, like, a lot of people think they have to go to 0 and 100 nutrition, or they just hear all these things online. So it makes things very, very confusing. They're like, and it's the carbs. The biggest thing with women is just carbs. Like, they take the bun off everything. They remove the croutons. We are so conditioned to go against carbohydrates. And one of the best like scenarios I can really explain is like, think about a plain baked potato. How many of you can eat a plain baked potato? No salt, no butter. You can't add ranch, no cheese. How many of you think you could actually overeat a plain baked potato? Like just go ham at them.
Yeah, I don't think so, because you couldn't get it all down.
It's super filling. But now let's think of a potato chip where it's salt, fat, and potato. How easy would it be to get a bag down?
Oh, I mean, I'm not speaking from experience, but pretty easy.
Exactly. So I think a lot of times we want to demonize the carbohydrates, but if you just really think about simple nutrition, strawberries, carrots, bananas, potatoes, rice, I guarantee you the person that is, struggling with nutrition, it's not because they're eating an abundance of carbs or those foods. What they're doing is they're eating an abundance of hyper palatable foods like chips, cookies, donuts. They have fat, salt combined. They're not eating whole food. So I think we like to put the blame on carbs, but research does not support that at all. But a lot of people think of carbs, they think of pizza. They're thinking of things that aren't just carbs, or, they're thinking of those really hyper palatable foods. And so when you go to cut out carbs, of course, you're cutting out those hyper palatable foods, but they also cut out the fruit. And so they immediately associate that in their head, like fruit and carbs is bad, not eating those. But in reality, it's because they just improved their food quality by eating protein and vegetables typically.
Right.
So,
well, and I want to touch on too, I love how you said you started working with each of your clients and meeting them where they were at with their journey and what they wanted. Maybe it is focusing on a healthy lifestyle eating. Maybe it's focusing on healthy habits. Like each and every one is a different person. And I so love that, because we are, and I think we've been so conditioned to be like, oh gosh, I got to look like that. I've got to act like that, and even this morning I had this thought. I'm like, you know what? I was listening to another podcast and I thought, man, everybody wants to be like somebody who has been courageous and has done all these things, but that person is not like anybody else. And like, we're not created like anybody else. Mm-hmm. And so what if you had the courage to be you, go after your why? Even you telling me your story in the beginning, knowing a little bit of your history, I could tell there was a passion for this from the beginning for you, and you chased after it. And that's why you are where you're at. And so I just think that that's so cool. But, circling back to the healthy person, the healthy habits, how do you talk to your clients and work with them on what they want to become or to obtain as a healthy client? How do you go through that process?
Yeah. So the first thing we do is get on a discovery call. I ask them what their why is. And one important question I ask each one of them is like, how will you know you've reached your end goal? Like picture yourself, 1 to 5 years from now. What does that look like for you on day-to-day life? And I feel like that really helps me picture what they're going for. Like I feel like a really common one is like, they want to feel energized. They want to feel good each day. They want to feel confident, in their body and their food choices. And then what I do next is, after we've had that conversation, what I do is I take a food log. We food log for like 5 to 7 days. We see where they're currently at. If you have someone that's only eating, they're eating 0 fruits or vegetables, they're just not a fruit or vegetable person, they're skipping breakfast, all these things, you can't just tell someone they have to change all these things, from the get-go. So what I usually ask this client, after I've done some education, I bring what their energy needs are. I educate them why it's important. I say, where do you want to start? Like, we know your protein's low, your calories are either way too high or way too low. We need to get there. And I usually ask, why it's important for them and where do they want to start? So a lot of times they'll spout out. They're like, well, I want to, have a regular meal eating pattern. I'll ask them why it's important to them. They'll tell me their reasons why. Now I understand their why. And then I'll educate them on, the science reasons why. And they're a lot more motivated to do so. And then we map out their week. And a lot of times my clients have the best ideas, and there's so many different approaches. So I usually will see what they have first on their idea list versus me just saying, you got to do this. A lot of times they know what to do. They're like, well, maybe I'll just start with adding a protein shake in the morning. And I'm like, Perfect. Is that optimal just yet? No, but that's better for them. They're not eating any fruits and vegetables and they want to start. I'm like, well, how do you want to start? What's one you like? They pick it out and they start with doing one. They get comfortable with doing one. And then we build off of that versus what most like programs you see, like it's like a whole ordeal where it's like they have to change everything and there's a lot of resistance and it's not something that's built for them or something they want to do. And so that's how I have the conversation with my clients. It's very awkward for them because they're usually expecting a coach to take over. But in reality, I just say, I'm a guide. I'm a dietitian. Like I educate you, but in reality, that your habits have to work for you. You have to want to do these habits and you have to start where you're at. If you're not doing all these things, you're not going to immediately jump to eating 5 to 7 fruits, vegetables a day. You're not going to immediately have the habit of meal planning. Like we got to build upon it.
Well, and I love that. I don't know if I'm sure you have the book Atomic Habits.
Yes.
I like read it twice. It was amazing. It helped me so much. But one thing I love that I'm hearing you say is like, okay, we're starting where you're at and we're building off of that. But then on top of that, I don't know for speaking for just myself, anything that's ever stuck with me has had to be my choice. And I had to take the initiative to be like, I'm either at a place where I've had enough or I want something different or I have an end goal that I'm not there yet. I need to get there. But then it's me taking that initiative to be like, all right, I'm going to do it. Because if somebody else does it for me, the moment that they stop, it's just like, oh, okay, well, they're not telling me here, so I'm just not going to do it. Versus like me actually having, like you're saying, take the initiative to be like, hey, does that work for you? Oh gosh, I don't know. Does it work for me? Okay, yeah, I could do this, And then it's like, all right. And then maybe that one little thing, maybe it's doing your protein shake in the morning. You do it for 3 out of 5 days, maybe. And you're like, hey, I did that. 3 out of 5 days. Okay, I can do that. Now what's next? And so it's like you build confidence off of those small wins, like they're saying, those atomic little habits every day. And then there's no telling, there's no limits, there's nowhere where you can't go. And one thing I do love too, is you said you make everybody write it down. That was a game changer for me. I worked with Paige Champion a little bit and just writing those things down. I hadn't ever really done, I wrote them down, but then I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever, and actually coming full circle in the next year, looking back and being like, wow, I did those things. Oh, I didn't do those things. Well, why not? And just breaking those things down. And as a competitor, I think, we do that in everything else. Just like you were with your bodybuilding, you were like, okay, you had to be meticulous in each and every little thing. So there's no difference in obtaining our habits, our lifestyles, those things. We've got to be meticulous, but you've got to start from somewhere.
Exactly. And I think the biggest thing too is like what you're saying is the internal versus external motivation. The only motivation that lasts is what's internal. Like you can hire a coach, you can do all these things, but if you're not realizing what your motivation is and what your drive is, as soon as you stop working with that coach and you quit your habits, you didn't actually connect to your why, and it probably wasn't your decision. And so when you hire a coach, like I think there's an expectation of like, the coach has to, be right there telling you to do that. But in reality, you're going to have to be the person that wants to do that. The coach can hold you accountable, of course, but it's these things you have to do when your coach is not longer there. And so I think that's something they got to realize too. And then also your systems, it has to be, we're helping you build a system. You're not on a diet plan. We're trying to build something that you can walk away and do for life and you can continue to do. So if we start with that protein shake that works every morning, keep that protein shake in every morning if it works good. We got that down. If you drink water, if you drink like that water bottle and it's what helps you get your water in, keep that in. Like always it's a system you're building. And then also what you're saying too is self-awareness, writing your goals down and asking yourself, what happened? Did I not plan this weekend? I know I'm going to a rodeo and I always end up at 2 or 3 a.m. fast food. What do I keep doing? What am I missing? How do I be more proactive? Like learning from that versus just never checking in with yourself.
Well, and I think that's something in our society today, it's just like, go, 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 go. I hear everybody all the time, how's it going? Oh, just busy. And it's true. We are just busy. But is it an intentional busy? Is it I'm focused busy? One of the best things I ever did was a time chart of like my day. And I just wrote down and I was like, this is the silliest thing I've ever done. And I looked back at that thing and I'm like, I had so much wasted time. Holy cow. And it wasn't even something that I thought about, so that was very helpful too. But talk a little bit. You mentioned about rodeo athletes. I know you work with rodeo athletes. You work with a bunch of different clients as well. Western Sports Foundation is a huge part of your program. So what are some of the things that, as you've worked with rodeo athletes, that have really stuck out that maybe some of our listeners can glean off of, maybe adding to their programs that they have currently?
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost is what I was saying is being proactive with your nutrition and map out where you're going. So with a lot of the athletes, like if you're going to kind of a rural area, like we got to plan for that. Can you bring fruits and vegetables with you? So I usually recommend stuff that honestly is room temperature, depending on what's going on. So like, apples, oranges, things like that can hold. And then packing foods with you if there's no good options available. So things like, sandwiches and things like that. So I feel like that's one of the first things we do. But honestly, we also just work with that individual too. So we'll see, we might try out different things, different breakfasts, different ways to fuel. And so the second thing we'll do is depending, on your energy levels, we might try out different fueling. So like for someone who moves around a lot, like maybe like a bullfighter, they're going to need a lot more energy than, someone who has like an 8-second event. And so helping them understand that, we do need to be fueling for those things and appropriately for your event. And some things you can take away, I would say a regular meal pattern. Even though you're on the road, stick to regular meal patterns. Our bodies like homeostasis. We like doing the same things every day. When possible, eat around the same times, have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Learn how to build balanced plates. So when you're going to fast food restaurants, I know that we're not going to be able to control that all the time, but what you can do is, make sure you hit your protein component, make sure you hit your carb component, make sure you are incorporating fruits and vegetables. And then, of course, water. So making sure your hydration's where it needs to be. I know we don't like to always drink water when we're on the go all the time, but, you got to weigh out your pros and cons on that, on whether, your performance is more important or, doing the occasional stop. So,
right. Well, and I think, when you say it like that, when you say it out loud, it just completely, when you're like, is your performance more important or is the stop? And I'm like, well, obviously my performance, that's what I've worked all year for. That's what I work every day for. But until you say it like that, I'm like, well, I never really thought about that. I'm always like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to stop every 30 minutes to an hour because I drink too much water. But then it's like, well, do you want your body functioning? Do you want your mind functioning? And all the other things that go along with it, your hormones, your emotions. So yeah, when you say it out loud, it sounds a little bit different,
but things a little bit. It's like, oh, and those are the questions you got to ask yourself too. It's like,
yeah,
well, and that allows you to kind of be honest and, it's what is the most important thing to you. And if you're not checking in with yourself, you're not going to know whether these habits are helpful or hurtful. And that's a really good question too. I think it even came from Atomic Habits, like always asking if this habit is inching you closer to your goal, or is it, taking you away from your goal? So when you're doing these things, always kind of checking in with it.
Just listening to you, talking to you, and then on your social media platforms, you have been one of the forefront ladies and entrepreneurs that have been open and honest about your journey and not covering up, anything that was fearful or shameful or guiltful or whatever it looks like, with your body image, with your journey in your business, anything. And so how has it been? Talk to me a little bit about having the courage to be raw and real in front of an audience of your peers and just kind of sharing that message, because I just admire it so much, the courage that you've had to be honest and forthcoming in all these things. And I think you've changed a lot of people's lives because of it. So talk to me a little bit about that and why you feel led to do that.
Yeah. First of all, it is terrifying putting yourself out there. You can easily let your thoughts consume you. Like, what is so-and-so going to think? What is, my family going to think? And constantly overthinking everything. But some of the best advice, or not even advice, just a good mindset shift I had was, what happens if I don't post? What happens if I don't put myself out there? How many people am I not helping? There's going to be people out there that probably judge your content, but there's going to be, I guarantee, more people that are liking your content and are thankful, because your content isn't going to be relatable to everybody. But if you speak your truth, speak what you've went through, there's going to be the right people are going to relate to it and they're going to stick around. So I think once I overcame that fear, I've really been able to connect with people. And one of my favorite thing that Jenna Moore, so we do Western Sports Foundation, she talks about social media. People don't like to see just the positive things on your social media. Those are great, congrats, but people need to also know that you're human and what you struggle with, because that's where the real connection happens and where you can actually help people. If I only posted the days or my morning routines where I got up at 5:30 and I started my morning with, my banana and stretching, and I got to the gym on time, and I got back and I, got right into work mode. People are often more not going to be inspired by that. They're going to be like, oh, that's nice.
What a perfect little girl you are. No,
exactly. But reality, it's hard to get up some days. I snooze my alarm, showing things like that really help other people. And then you can actually tell them tools on how you just make sure it's not a habit and things like that. So
just connecting with people and them being able to connect and relate with you, because, I think we all have the struggle and the grind of this overcoming perfectionism. And, man, I haven't met anybody that's perfect yet, including myself. And so it's just being the fact, Cody Johnson has that song, I'm Human. And I just think that relates to so many people, and having that content that's not perfect, that's just hey, I'm human. This is what's going on. This is what I'm trying to do, but this is maybe how it's going. I don't know what that looks like, but, just being that they are able to relate to you, and they're like, okay, there's somebody else out there. I can relate to that. I get that. I feel you.
And I would be really scared to post about the struggles of bodybuilding, because there's just, all my friends are bodybuilders, and, I was scared that I was going to get eye roll.
The judgment.
The judgment from it. But I'm like, well, this is literally what's happening to me. If this is happening to me, it can't be.
I'm not just alone. Somebody else has got to be going through this too.
Yeah.
Okay. I have one more question for you that I ask everybody that comes onto the podcast. If you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be and why?
Oh, good. That's a great question. I think what I would do is just tell myself again, don't be so worried about everyone else. Always check in with yourself. Ask yourself what you really want to do. Make sure you stay hooked to your values. Write down your values and stick to them when making decisions. And a lot with just people pleasing, just always doing what I think other people want, just really being able to stand firm in my beliefs. So if I go back and tell myself one thing, it's, stick to what you believe in, stick to your values, be okay with being vocal, be okay with being controversial, and stick to what you believe in, because it's going to make your life a lot better, and the right people are going to come to you, and the wrong people are going to, weed themselves out.
I love that. That's one thing, I often pray and ask God. I thank him for opening doors, and I also thank him for closing the doors that are not meant to be open. And so I think that that's one thing as I'm getting older and I feel, more knowledgeable and wisdom, but just the fact that it's okay. People are going to come and people are going to go, and that's okay. And like you said, just standing true to your beliefs, your values, and all the things that you feel led to do. I really don't think you can go wrong there.
Completely agree.
Okay, y'all. So if you want to check out the Dietitian and all the cool things April's got going on, you can go to her website at adnutritionllc.com. She is on all social media profiles. April, what do you have? What does it look like for people who want to get involved with you, maybe want to do a client consultation and get on board with the Dietitian?
Yeah. So if you're a rodeo athlete, you can actually go through Western Sports Foundation and apply and just go through the nutrition services. If you're just someone wanting to better their health, just go to my Instagram profile or my website and go to apply. We'll get you on a discovery call and we'll see if we're a good fit.
Awesome. Well, I'm very excited for you and your journey. Thank you so much for coming to the show today. And I appreciate your time.
Of course, Jordan, it was so much fun.
Thank you for joining us on In the Loop Breakaway Roping Podcast. I truly appreciate all of your loyal support. Don't forget to leave me a review, share this episode with a friend, and if you have any questions, I want to hear from you. Email me at jordan@thebreakawayropingpodcast.com. Go check us out, sign up for our newsletter, get our email alerts, text alerts, and all things breakaway roping. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you down the road.